One day, you simply cut off communication. There was no conflict, no explanation, no dramatic ending. You just chose silence, and no one noticed it. What's more interesting is that at first, you didn't notice it in yourself either. You told yourself you were just busy, just tired. But somewhere beneath that, something had already decided. You told yourself you were just busy and tired. You didn't feel like doing anything. But your subconscious had already made a decision, running quietly in the background. You still care deeply about people. Someone looking at your life from the outside wouldn't know that. You are not cold, you are not antisocial, but your living space began to sharing. Maybe somewhere in the depths of your thoughts, you allowed it to happen. You stopped responding as quickly as you once did. You began caring less about human relationships. Your phone was once full of names that felt close. Now those names feel like someone else's life entirely. You show up when something truly important happens. You are loyal to the small number of people you still talk to. But the noise of maintaining all those connections you will left behind exhausts you in a way that's hard to describe. You don't hate people, you just can't perform anymore. You can no longer reflect the old version of yourself, the one that fit between all those bonfires. And here's the real point. You don't know when it started. You don't know why either. But the real question is this. What was your mind quietly protecting you from? There was probably a moment, or maybe a slow accumulation of moments. A friendship where you constantly give and received almost nothing in return. A group where you loved at the right times but still felt invisible. A period when you were surrounded by people but felt more alone than you ever did in solitude. At some point, your nervous system made a quiet calculation. The cost of staying connected is higher than the cost of stepping back. I didn't announce itself. It simply began to show up in your behavior. You left messages unread, not out of cruelty, but from a quiet sense of being overwhelmed. You made plans and cancelled them. Not because you didn't want to go, but because something inside you couldn't find the energy or the will to follow through. You kept this to yourself. You chose to live with it on the inside. And now it shapes how you move through every room, every relationship, every invitation. This is not a character flaw. This is a response. And it was a smarter response than you give yourself credit for. Psychologist John Caiseppo spent decades studying loneliness and social withdrawal. He found something most people get completely wrong. He called it hypervigilance to social threat. Simply put, when someone has experienced enough emotional pain in relationships, the brain begins scanning for danger even before connection is attempted. This is not shyness. This is not introversion. This is protection. Your brain learned that closeness sometimes leads to loss, to disappointment, to the quiet grief of being misunderstood by someone who was supposed to know you. So it did what all brains do. It adapted. And for you, that adaptation looked like distance. You no longer approach new people with openness. You don't become intimate with them right away. You approach them with a quiet evaluation. Is this person safe? Are they worth talking to? Worth getting close to? Will I have to perform her? This is not coldness. This is an attentive nervous system. But here's the part that goes even deeper. This is another explanation for why you specifically chose silence rather than becoming angry, loud, or dramatic. Psychologist Elaine Aron's research On highly sensitive person revealed that approximately 20% of people have a nervous system that processes social and emotional information more deeply than others. Not more emotional, more thought. You notice more. You feel subtleties others miss. You carry the unspoken tension in a room without anyone asking you to. And here's where it applies. When someone with a nervous system like this is exposed to repeated social disappointment, they don't shut down because they are weak. They go quiet because the signal to noise radio becomes too painful to bear. You weren't pulling away from people. You were pulling away from the overwhelming cost of processing a world that was never designed for the way your mind works. But let's look at what this pattern actually means for you, and not in the way you think. Researcher Stuart Shanker, who built much of his work around self-regulation, found that chronic social overload doesn't just exhaust people, it fundamentally changes how the brain allocates energy. He called it the stress behavior that looks like character. What appears to be a personality trait, quality withdrawing, slowly disappearing, is often a depleted nervous system making the only rational choice it has left, which means what you've been calling a flaw is something else entirely. This is not who you are. It is what you needed to survive a particular kind of burnout. And that changes everything about how you see this. Let's be honest about what the world has told you. They say you are too closed off, too hard to reach, that you pull away when things get real, that you have some resistance problem inside you that pushes connection away. But here's what no one told you. You are not cold. You are careful. You are not running from something. You are finally making choices. There is a real difference between someone who is emotionally avoidant, feeling depth, keeping everyone at arm's length out of fear of vulnerability, and someone who has simply become selective. You are not afraid of depth, you miss it. You are afraid of the shallow and being sold to you as the whole thing. You disappear it from certain spaces because the spaces ask you to be less than you are, louder than you felt, lighter than your actual weight, and you couldn't do it anymore. But here's the honest truth, and this part matters. This pattern has a shadow side too. Sometimes the withdrawal goes too far. Sometimes pulling away from people goes to a level that harms you. You pull away even from those who will be good for you, who will support you. Sometimes protecting yourself starts to look like punishing yourself with loneliness. It's good to face this, but face it with honesty, not with shame. Because the goal was never to disappear entirely. The goal was to stop disappearing into connections that took everything from you and give nothing back. You are not someone who gave up on people. You are someone who finally stopped sacrificing yourself for them. You are not broken. You are not cold, difficult, too much, or too little. You are not someone who failed at relationships. You are someone whose relationships failed to meet you where you actually live. There is research worth knowing. Researchers at the University of Arizona found that people who maintain a small number of deeply meaningful relationships, compared to those who maintain wide, shallow social networks, demonstrate strong emotional resilience, lower stress indicators, and higher life satisfaction. A quiet world is not evidence that something went wrong. It may be the most honest thing about you. If I could write something directly to you, it would be this. For years, you tried to fit into rooms that were never built for you. You smiled through conversations that left you emptier than ceilings ever could. You kept showing up for people who would never notice your closeness. you support. And at some point, quietly, you chose to withdraw, not loudly, not dramatically. You just stopping shrinking. That wasn't abandonment. That was the beginning of something real. There is nothing wrong with needing less noise to hear yourself think. The people worth finding will find you in the silence. Listen to the voice inside you that still cares for yourself. Honor yourself and your needs. If something in this video felt true to you, leave a quiet comment below. Even just the word "this" is enough. If the video spoke to you, you are welcome to share your own story in the comments as well. Write that you subscribed and I'll reply to every single one. Going silent was never the end of your story. It was simply the part where you finally began breathing it yourself.